may have heard of the Salem witch trials. You may even have heard of the Pendle witch trials. But have you heard of the Haye du Puits witch trials? No? Well, don't worry. I'm here to tell you about it. I live in Normandy and I grew up here, and I went to secondary school in a place called Haye du Puits, and the logo of this school was a witch, and the actual school itself was called Étonclin, and we knew that this had something to do with witches, that there was this dungeon in the town, and we were told that that's where the witches were imprisoned. But nobody really knew the real story. The thing about Normandy is an awful lot of records were lost in World War II during the Normandy landings. So in Normandy, it is said that history started on the 6th of June, 1944. But recently I found out about this book. It is called Magic, Sorcery and Fantasy in Normandy, and I was like, okay, I need this, right, I need this now. So I got hold of a copy of it, and it has the actual full story of the Haye du Puits witches, so here it is. The story starts in 1669 with a young boy called Jacques Noël. Jacques Noël is known for having episodes during which he sees spectres and is said to be cursed. He was questioned by the local bailiff and gave several names of people who were involved with the Sabbath, claiming that they had repeatedly asked him to come to the Sabbath and he had always refused. And since then, he was the victim of 1,000 torments. He told the bailiff that once, when he was walking home to his mother's house, he walked past the place where the witches' Sabbath took place. There, the local baker came to take him into a circle of dancers where the devil himself stood as a black man with horns. He was told to give himself to the devil and tempted with 3 maidens he believed were demons in human form. He, however, refused, and they let him go, making him promise to not breathe a word of what he had seen. The boy was examined by several doctors who came to the conclusion that the torments he suffered from could only come from supernatural causes. Medicine in the 17th century was not what it is now. It was noted that he could distinguish between holy water and plain water, writhing in despair after being sprayed with the first and having no reaction with the second, despite the fact he had no way of telling the difference. All those named by Noël were arrested and locked up in the dungeon of Haye du Puits. A local judge addressed all the neighbouring parishes, asking them for information about witchcraft and witches' gatherings. And this is when the fun starts. Many people came forward with gossip. Those named gave even more names. Hundreds of people were arrested and accused of witchcraft, and they told rather terrifying tales. Many witnesses claimed that they had seen witches' gatherings with as many as 200 people dancing naked around a large black goat. A young man called Charles Banneville declared having seen a large gathering of people in the woods of Étonclin, which gave its name to my school. He was arrested, as were the people that he named, and after interrogations, a rather clearer image of these rites started to emerge. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to officially invite you to the Witches' Sabbath. And tonight we have a variety of things prepared for your own entertainment. The evening will kick off with sacrilegious rites in the light of black candles. You can look forward to sexual encounters of all kinds. The devil himself will be present along with his large black goat to dance for your own entertainment. Practice hexing and cursing on the local priest, which we will provide for you. And on the menu, unbaptized bastard child. There is nothing as succulent. Afterwards, we will practice potion making with the leftovers of said child boiled with pieces of snake in order to produce various potions. And as a special parting gift, the fat of this child will be provided to you so that you can spread it on your body to aid with taking flight. Don't forget to bring your own broomstick and an unbaptized bastard child if you happen to have one handy. Join us for the Witches' Sabbath. Sounds like one hell of a party. The next part of this story takes place in the village where I grew up. Like, literally just up my street, and I had never heard of this. There are quite a lot of witness statements about a man called Panton, who was said to go to the Witches' Sabbath in the village next to mine on a broomstick. So he would fly with his broomstick to the Sabbath and come back and land literally at the end of my street. There was a witch who would fly on a broomstick and land at the end of my street. How cool is that? People describing this Sabbath said that there was 50 or 60 people dancing naked round a large goat. As they danced, the goat would grow in size until the witches would throw themselves at it and then it would fly away. One of the people involved in this was the local priest, a man called Abbé Questier, who was incredibly devoted to the local people. Whenever there was a plague outbreak, he would work really hard using his knowledge of medicinal plants and medicine in order to cure people and keep the plague away. The locals were so grateful for his help that they accused him of witchcraft, claiming that his knowledge could only come from the devil. He was accused of presiding over the Sabbath using people of witchcraft at a tribunal, because kids like always tell the truth, as we know. Like, wow. People who wanted revenge came in to accuse others. People who wanted land would accuse people, and also those who were afraid that they themselves might get accused, would come in and divert the blame, as it were. Over 100 people got locked up in the dungeon of Haye du Puits, and at least as many were being arrested at the same time. In the end, the bailiff had to let most of them go because they didn't have enough room or facilities or food to look after these people. So those who had minor charges would be let go. On the 25th of April 1670, a group of around 40 people was sent to the town of Carentan, where I also used to live, to be put on trial. This included the Abbé Questier and a local school teacher. The judges decided to search for a witch's mark on all of the prisoners. So back then they believed that anyone who was in league with the devil or practicing witchcraft would have a mark upon their body, so they'd either have a mole or something, or a part of their body where they did not feel pain. So they brought in some doctors and stabbed them with this needle until they found a spot where they couldn't feel any pain. That was supposed to be the spot where the devil touched them. They found this mark on Questier on a part of his leg where he had a lot of boils, but they couldn't find it on the other prisoners. Despite this, they decided that the witness statements were sufficient to sentence them to death. 34 people were sentenced to be hanged and burnt, and the execution was planned on the 19th of July, 1670. But on the day, a royal envoy arrived, sent by King Louis XIV. As it turned out, a man called Claude Pelot, a magistrate of Rouen who had re-examined the case, decided that maybe the verbal statements of a bunch of idiots in some lost town in the middle of the countryside wasn't reason enough to sentence a bunch of people to death. So he wrote to his friend Colbert asking him to get the king involved. The king ordered that the sentences should be withheld until further evidence could be brought forward. The judges of Rouen, shocked by this, decided to write back to the king and told him to reflect upon the devastating actions of these people, hexes and curses that caused unknown diseases, loss of wealth and land for his loyal subjects. Like, they really thought they could tell the king to just sit back and reflect upon witchcraft. Yeah. Louis XIV must have been like, wow, it's true what they say about people in far-flung provinces. They are kind of stupid. So he ignored the request for him to reflect, and on the 25th of April 1672, the king and his ministers decided to overturn the sentence, exactly 2 years after the accused had been taken to trial. It was declared that the death sentence would be instead turned into banishment, and this set a precedent in French legal history. From this point on, people accused of witchcraft were sentenced to be banished and not to be put to death unless really convincing evidence could be found. Unfortunately, in all of this time, many of the original accused had died in prison due to the appalling conditions they were kept in. So, in conclusion, I am really, really happy to now know this story because it obviously means a lot to me. I really love stories about witches. I think it's really interesting to see like how history has moved on. Like the 16th and 17th century Europe was just like witch mad. Everything was about hunting for witches and Satan was everywhere, and I am grateful to be alive in the 21st century. Like, it's not perfect. I'm not going to pretend it is. It can be pretty shitty sometimes. I was told when I was at secondary school that people who were accused of witchcraft tended to be like people who had mental health disorders, like epilepsy, people who had fits and stuff like that. But to read about a priest who spent a lot of his time trying to cure people of the plague and who was just really kind and altruistic, but that people would nonetheless turn on him this way and send him to be executed without a second thought. It is quite stunning to see how many people got involved and just like pointed the finger at others, just not caring that these people were going to die at the end of it. I've heard it said sometimes that, oh, well, before in history, people were a lot kinder than they are now and way more accepting. I definitely would have been one of those people strung up and hanged and burnt had I been alive at this time. So I'm very grateful. So that was it. That was the story of the Haye du Puits witches, my local witches. I am really, really obsessed with the guy Panton who rode a broom to my local village. Like, that was just so much fun. I really enjoyed reading that. So that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't hesitate to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.